Alright, hello everyone. This is the week 4 async recording. Alright, let's get going. Okay, so I want to go over these warm-up questions just so you can see what's happening with these. So we're asked to find the unit rate. Remember, a unit rate always needs a 1 in the bottom or a 1 in the denominator. So when you're given a ratio like this, your goal is to have another equivalent ratio where 1 is in the denominator. So you have to think to yourself, well, to get from 3 to 1, I have to divide by 3, because 3 divided by 3 gives you 1. So anything you do to the bottom, you also have to do to the top. So we're going to divide this by 3. So 15 divided by 3 gives you 5 shirts every 1 hour. Okay, here is the same thing. So 1304 all over 4. I want a 1 in my denominator. So to go from 4 to 1, I have to divide by 4. Since I divided by 4 on the bottom, I'm going to divide by 4 on the top. Now, for these unit rate problems, I'm okay if you're using a calculator. I encourage you to use a calculator because I'm not testing to see if you can divide with decimals. I'm testing to know if you know how to find the unit rate. So once you divide this, you should get $3.26. So that is $3.26 every 1 hour. Here, this one is different. Okay, I have 12 gallons of water in every 1/3 of a minute. I still want a 1. Okay, so I have 1/3 in the bottom. So I'm going to divide by 1/3. Notice that whatever number I have in my denominator, whenever I'm trying to go from this to 1, I'm always just dividing by itself, right? This is 3 and 3. This is 4 and 4. 1/3 and 1/3. Okay, so you want to divide the top also by 1/3. So you have 12 over 1 divided by 1/3. Here, when you're dividing with fractions, remember you have to copy dot flip. So copy your first one, 12 over 1. Your dot is taking this division and making it multiplication. And then you have to flip this last fraction to 3 over 1. Okay, so 12 times 3 gives you 36 over 1, so this is just 36. So this is 36 gallons of water every 1 minute. Okay, so there's a quick overview of how you find unit rates. I did send out a video for this. This is in the lesson 6 video. I sent it out in the week 4 announcement. So if you want some extra help or to see extra examples going over this type of thing, go watch that video. And if you need me to resend it to you, I can. Okay. So our lesson intentions today are to define parts of a graph, determine whether a graph is proportional or not proportional, be able to identify unit rates from graphs, and compare two unit rates from graphs. And the first letter of the quiz code is A as in apple. A as in apple. All quiz codes are all going to be lowercase, so there's no capitals, it's all lowercase letters. So A as in apple is the first one. All right, so important definitions of graphs. The origin. The origin is 0, 0. Okay, so whenever I say this line is passing through the origin, I mean it's passing through 0 on the graph. The x-axis. So this is the horizontal line. So when I think of horizontal, I think of horizon, right? Like a horizon when you see a sunset on the water, it's flat, it's going from left and right. So x-axis is horizon. The independent variable is your x-axis. So if your bottom of your graph is labeled as time, right, your left and right is time, that means that your independent variable is time. Going the other way, vertical, so up and down, that's your y-axis, and opposite of independent is dependent. So dependent is your y-axis. And last but not least is an ordered pair. So in an ordered pair, it is your x coordinate and then your y coordinate. This order is important. You cannot change that. Okay, Okay, so y comes first, sorry, x comes first, then y. So here, okay, this bottom over here, this is my x-axis. Okay, this 0 over here, that's your origin, right here. Okay. Your independent variable again is on the bottom, so say this is time. This is your independent. Say your y-axis over here is money, then your dependent variable is money. We'll go over more of this and you'll see what I mean. Say I have this point over here. Okay, to get to this point, I have to go over 1, 2, 3. So that means that 3 is my x coordinate and I have to go up 1, 2, which means that 2 is my y coordinate. Okay, so it's a lot of information about graphs. Hopefully you know some of it and some of it may be new and that's fine. We'll work with it. All right, proportional or not proportional. So this is what you have to remember. In order for a graph to be proportional, it must be a straight line and it must go through the origin. It has to have both. Okay, if it only has one and not the other, it is not proportional. It has to have both. So it has to be a straight line and it has to go through the origin. If it only has one, or say it has neither, then it's not. Okay, so we'll do examples and you'll see exactly what I mean. So on this first graph here, let's look. Straight line. Yeah, this line is straight, and then does it go through the origin? Remember, your origin is down here. Okay, it's down here at 0, 0, right here. So this line does not go through it, right? Because it's not touching the origin. So graph 1 is not proportional because it does not go through the origin. Does not go through the origin. Okay, on graph 2, this is a straight line and it does go through the origin, right? This line is passing through the center, 0, 0 over here, so yes, this is proportional because it does both. The second letter of the quiz code is V as in vision. V as in vision. So you should have A as in apple and then V as in vision. So when I look at this graph, is it proportional or not? Remember, proportion, you need to have a straight line and it has to go through the origin. So when I look at this graph, well, this is not straight, right? This has a huge curve in it. So it's not proportional because it is not straight. Okay, the line has a curve. So since that is curved, it's not proportional. Let's look at this graph. This line is straight, and does it pass through the origin 0, 0, which is over here? Yes, it does. So it's proportional because it's a straight line and it goes through the origin. Let's look at this graph here. So this line is straight, but it doesn't go through the origin, right? This spot right there does not pass through that. So this is not proportional because it does not go through the origin. It doesn't pass through the origin. So remember, you have to have both. Straight line, go through the origin. Straight line, go through the origin. And the third letter of the quiz code is O as in octopus. O as in octopus. So you should have AVO. Right. Finding unit rates from graphs. So one of the terms that you could hear is constant of proportionality. What this is just y over x. So it looks weird, but technically this is just your unit rate. It's another way of saying what is your unit rate for a specific graph. So let's look at this example here. I have a graph, okay? Now do you see how there's these points that are highlighted, right? The little pink dots. So what you want to do is pick a pink dot. And you need to determine what your coordinate pair, your x, y, is for that spot. Okay, so let's do this third one here. I'm looking at this third one here. When I go down here to my x-axis, right on the bottom, this dot is located 1, 2, 3, right? It's right here, this would be where 3 is. So 3 is my x-coordinate. Now, when you're counting your y-axis or even your x-axis, you have to be careful and look at your scale. And what I mean by that is this does not go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Because if you look, this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So when I jump from 0 to 10, I have one tick mark in between. So what is halfway between 0 and 10? 5, which means that this is 15 and that this is 25 and so on. So if I look at this dot and go all the way to the left, right, I hit 15, which means that my xy for this graph is 3, 15. Now my unit rate needs to be y over x. So 15 is my y, 3 is my x. Now it's close, it's not a unit rate yet. Remember, unit rates need to have a 1 in the denominator, so to go from 3 to 1, I divide by 3. So since I divided by 3 on the bottom, I have to divide by 3 on the top, which means that 15 divided by 3 is 1. Okay, now for units, your y units is going to be gallons, your x unit is going to be minutes. Okay, so this is 5 gallons every 1 minute. 5 gallons every 1 minute. Now, when you are picking a point from a graph, it must go through the grid lines. So do you see how every single little intersection there's little crosshairs? Your line needs to go directly through the center of the crosshairs. Otherwise, you don't know what the number is. Oops, I definitely did all of that over this. Let's see. Well, I will try and erase it. Let me just write 5 over 1 over here. And then I'll erase that. Oops. Eraser. Sorry about that. I forgot that I put a graph over here too. Okay. Back to pen. Okay. So, let's look at this graph now. Okay. Well, this point is highlighted for me. So I'm going to use this point because it's kind of telling me to use it. So when I look at my x number, so this dot, when I go straight down, it's at 4, which means that 4 is my x coordinate. And then when I take this dot, move all the way to the left, there's no number here. But if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, this graph is going by ones. So that means 3 is my y. Okay, remember, so you have x and your y. So this is 4 and 3. Where you have your y over x, which means you have 3 over 4. Okay, so if I need a unit rate, I have 3 over 4 equals over 1, right? So to go from 4 to 1, I divide by 4. To go from 3 to my blank here, since I divided by 4 on the bottom, I have to divide by 4 on the top. And when you do 3 divided by 4, you get 0.75. Again, you can type that into your calculator, that's fine. So again, we have gallons and we have minutes. So this means it's 0.75 gallons for every 1 minute. Okay. So when you find unit rates from graphs, to recap, the first thing you want to do is pick a point. Okay, pick a point. Then the second thing you want to do is you want to identify the coordinate pair. So you want to write a coordinate pair for that point. So write your coordinate pair. And then 3, you want to write your coordinate pair. I'm going to put write your x comma y as y over x. And then the last step, so step 4 would be to make sure you have a 1 in the denominator. Denominator. bottom of here. So pick your point, write your coordinate pair, write your coordinate pair as y over x, then make sure you have a 1 in your denominator. Okay, so let's do it again. Okay, oops, sorry. Let's pick this point right here. Okay, so let's do this very bottom point. Now, if I go straight down, it tells me it's at 6, which means 6 is my x-coordinate, right? Because remember, this down here is your x-axis, and this up here is your y. So left and right is x, up and down is y. When I take this point and go all the way back this way, there's no number here, but this axis is going by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that means that my y-coordinate is 1. Okay, so my x and y, I'm going to see if I can color code this one. Maybe that might help some people. This is my x and y, okay, which means that when I write this as y over x, okay, my coordinate pair is 6, 1. So I have 6, 1, okay, which means that 1 goes in my numerator. So I have 1 over, and since my x is 6, 6 is going in the bottom. Okay, so y is up top, y is up top, x is on the bottom, x is on the bottom. Okay, however, this is not a unit rate because my 1 is in my numerator. It is not in the denominator. And I need to have a 1 in the denominator, which means to go from 6 to 1, I have to divide by 6, which means I need to do the same exact thing to the top. Okay, so in your calculators, you can do 1 divided by 6, and you should get a repeating decimal, which is 0.16 repeating. Now, when you look over here, your up and down, this is your y label, this is your x label on the bottom. So your final answer is 0.16 repeating. This is moon weight for every 1 earth weight. So 0.16 moon weight pounds for every 1 earth weight pounds. That means that for every 1 pound you weigh on Earth, you weigh 1/6 of that on the moon, which is kind of cool. It's like if you weigh 100 pounds on Earth, then you'd only weigh around 16 pounds on the moon. So that's a fun fact. Fourth letter of the quiz code is C as in cat. C as in cat. Okay, so far you should have AVOC. AVOC. Okay, so now let's look at some unit rates that have decimals. Okay, so this graph has coordinate pairs for us. Okay, so this dot looks like it's right there. Okay, so it tells me that I have a 5, 43.5. Okay, hopefully by now you should have y over x memorized. Okay, y over x, y over x, y over x. So 43.5, this is my y, and 5 is my x, which means that I should have 0.5 all over 5. Okay, now I need a unit rate, which means I need to have a 1 in my denominator. So to go from 5 to 1, I have to divide by 5, and then I need to do the same exact thing up top. So I have to divide that by 5 as well. So in our calculators, 43.5 divided by 5, I get 8.7. Now again, let's look at our y-axis label here. Okay, so our y is food in pounds, and our x is weeks. This is our x, and this is our y. Sorry, that looks like an x. Y. Which means that I have 8.7 pounds of food every 1 week. Okay, so again to recap, you find your point, you write it as your coordinate pair. Okay, so x comma y, that's this step right here. You take this, write it as y over x. Make sure there's a 1 in the denominator, and then that's your answer. Okay, so now we're going to compare unit rates. So which company sells trucks for a lower rate? Okay, so this graph over here represents company A, and this graph over here represents company B. Okay, so I'm going to do these in separate colors so we can keep them straight. So over here I have these 2 points. All I'm going to do is just pick one of them. It doesn't matter which one, because regardless of which one I pick, I'll get the same unit rate anyway. Okay, so whenever you have any graph, you can pick any point that you want as long as you have the point coordinate pair for it. So let's pick that 2, 5, just because the numbers are a bit smaller. Now remember, I need to write this as y over x. So I need to have 5 over 2 is equal to something over 1. So to go from 2 to 1, I need to divide by 2. To go from 5 to something, since I divided by 2 in the bottom, I need to divide by 2 up top. So when you have 5 divided by 2, you should get 2.5. Okay, so this means that it is $2.50 for every one truck. Okay, I got that because over here, this is your cost, right? This is your y, and this is number of trucks. This is your x. Okay, so our y and x are the same, except these coordinate points are a bit different. So I'm going to use the 3, 4.5. Okay, I need to write this as y over x. So I have 4.5 all over 3. And this equals blank over 1. To divide the bottom by 3, divide the top by 3. So 4.5 divided by 3, and I get this as 1.5. So that means that this is $1.50 for every one truck. So between 250 and 150, 150 is cheaper than 250, which means that company B has the better deal. So company B has the lower rate. So company B has the lower rates. Yay! Company B has lower rate. Perfect. Okay. The 5th letter of your quiz code is A as in adventure. A as in adventure. So far you should have A-V-O-C-A. Say it again. A-V-O-C-A. Okay. Let's do another comparing unit rate question. So, oops, here we go. Let's change this so my colors match. Store A sells 3 apples for $1.50 and store B sells 6 apples for $2.88. Which store has the better deal? So what we're going to do is find the unit rate for both stores. Okay, so here for store A, you can see on your graph it's color coded, right? Store A is blue up here and it's blue down here. Store B is green up here and it's green right here. So I have this 3, 1.50. I need to write this as y over x. So I have 1.50 over 3. This is equal to 1, right? I need to divide this by 3, divide my top by 3. So I have 1.5 divided by 3, which gives me 0.5. Okay, so this one is 50 cents for every one apple, right? Because my x is in apples and my y is price. Okay. So now let's do store B. All right, store B. So my coordinate pair for store B is 6, 2.88. I need to write this as y over x. Okay, so I have 2.88 over 6. I need to have a 1 in the denominator, so I have my unit rates. So I need to divide top and bottom by 6, because 6 is in my denominator, so I need to divide it by 6. So 2.88 divided by 6. Here, I get this as 0.48, which means that store B sells each apple for 48 cents. Which means that which store is cheaper? Well, store A is 50 cents and store B is 48 cents. So store B is cheaper, and it's by 2 cents. 2 cents might not seem like a lot cheaper, but if you're buying a lot of apples, then it'll add up. Okay, so remember coordinate pair, y over x, and then make sure you have a 1 in the denominator. All right. The 6th letter of the quiz code is D as in dog. D as in dog. So you should have A, V, O, C, A, D. All right. Success criteria. Can I define parts of a graph? Can I determine whether a graph is proportional? Can I determine whether a graph is not proportional? Remember, for these two, for it to be proportional, it needs to have a straight line and it needs to have both of these. It needs to go through the origin. Okay, it has to have both. It needs to be a straight line and it needs to go through the origin. Both of them. Can I identify a unit rate from graph, and can I compare unit rates? So for these two, I'm going to write your steps down here for you, okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to write your coordinate pair. So write your coordinate pair. Your coordinate pair, remember, is your x, comma, y. The second thing you want to do is take your x, comma, y. You want to write it as y over x. Then the last thing you want to do is make sure that your y over x is equal to some number over 1. Okay, so this right here, this is your unit rate. So you need to make sure that you have a 1 in your denominator over here, and then you have some number up top. So coordinate pair, y over x, and then unit rate. Lastly, the final letter of the quiz code is O as in open. O as in open. So it is avocado. So A-V-O-C-A-D-O. Okay, so that's all that I have. If you want some extra help with converting, well, not really converting, but just finding unit rates from graphs, please let me know. Don't forget to take your quiz. Okay, quizzes are worth 15% of your grade, so don't skip out on them. Those are easy points to get. The questions you'll see are very similar to ones that I showed you in here. If you have questions or want help on anything else, please let me know. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Bye.